All good evening. Thank you to Foreign Secretary Shringla and thank you to the Raisina Dialogue for your kind invitation to speak this evening. India has been a key partner for the OECD since 2007. We work together in many OECD policy committees and indeed in a number of global fora. Importantly, we work together in the G20, where India will of course take over the presidency in 2023 and where we have pursued important reforms together. For example, our global landmark reforms to make international tax arrangements fairer and work better in a digitalized and globalized world economy. India is the world's largest democracy, a major force in the global economy and an outstanding source of innovation and cross-border collaboration. We deeply value our bilateral relationship and the important role India plays in advancing mutually beneficial multilateral solutions to some of the biggest challenges we face today. It is sadly a statement of the obvious that we are meeting at an especially challenging time. After 2 difficult years marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are deeply distressed to watch the pain and suffering inflicted on the people of Ukraine. It is indeed in everyone's interest for the war in Ukraine to stop. Russia's unprovoked and unjustifiable war of aggression is first and foremost a humanitarian disaster for the people of Ukraine, causing the loss of many innocent lives, the senseless destruction of homes and infrastructure, with millions escaping the war and many more displaced within the country. And it's a war which, of course, is also having a material negative impact on the global economic outlook. We don't know the ultimate magnitude of the global economic impact of this war. It will depend on its duration, the measures taken in response to some of its implications and many other factors. It is clear, though, that this war is causing a substantial drag on global growth, is adding further to inflation, and is causing cascading impacts on supply chains, energy prices, and food security. And of course, and which brings me to the topic that I was asked by the Raisina Dialogue organizers to focus on, all of this is happening at the same time as the world is dealing with significant and important structural transformational challenges related to the green and digital transitions. It is incredibly important, in fact arguably even more important, that while responding to those shocks, COVID pandemic, war in Ukraine, we stay the course in securing the successful green and digital transformations of our economies. The green and digital transformations of our economies do come with some real challenges, but they also present very significant opportunities, especially for a country with such important weight and immense potential as India. So let me just focus on some points. First, we must strive to ensure access to secure, modern, and affordable energy services for all, while also remaining on track to deliver on our collective climate goals. These objectives must go hand in hand. India's efforts to bring modern electricity and energy services to its population have been truly remarkable and serve as a leading example to other countries around the world. Opportunities do still exist, though, to accelerate transformative action. There is the need to continue with well-targeted public investment. And we must also create the right conditions to attract private clean energy investment and to more effectively mobilize international climate and development finance in support of clean and renewable energy and in support of open, competitive electricity markets. And it is true that developed nations, advanced economies around the world made a commitment to mobilize $100 billion worth of climate finance for developing economies around the world. That goal was not met in 2020, but we do believe, based on our assessment, that it will be met by 2023 and exceeded from there on onwards. And importantly, in the context of COP26 in Glasgow, a decision was made to align all official development assistance with the objectives of the Paris Agreement. And that's about $170 billion worth of development finance in this past year, which is now fully aligned with the climate objectives. As India pursues its legitimate growth aspirations as an economic powerhouse for the global economy, its energy demand will continue to rise. And as India continues to build its energy infrastructure in support of those growth aspirations, important opportunities exist to take advantage of now cost-competitive clean energy technologies, including solar, hydrogen, and wind. We must better incentivize smart consumer choices through investing in public transport infrastructure, phasing out environmentally harmful subsidies, improving energy efficiency, and ramping up sensible incentives for clean alternatives to energy. A successful green transition in India is very important for the world because both for the material contribution it would make in itself to our global emissions reduction efforts, but also because a successful green transition in India as a major democratic emerging market economy will serve as inspiration to emerging market economies around the world. It will be a global public good. And I'm delighted, therefore, that the OECD's own Clean Energy Finance and Investment Mobilization Programme is partnering with the Government of India to develop an action plan to identify and address finance and investment bottlenecks in the domestic energy sector here in India. We have also proposed to launch a series of annual G20 investment dialogues on clean energy, convening emerging and developing economy governments, donor governments, and private sector actors to help match clean energy projects to international public and private finance. Second area of focus, we need to continue to facilitate the digital transformation of our economies as an enabler of strong, sustainable, and resilient growth and improvements in living standards. To achieve that, we will need to reduce the digital divide, which remains persistent both within and between countries. This includes ensuring reliable, universal availability and access to the necessary digital infrastructure, an important focus, of course, in the Digital India campaign, which was launched back in 2015. India's achievements so far on this front are impressive, but there is still a way to go, and at the OECD we stand ready to continue to support your efforts. We must invest in our people's digital skills, and we must ensure that training, upskilling, and reskilling efforts target those who need them so they have the best possible opportunity, so that everyone has the best possible opportunity to participate in and benefit from the digital transformation. There are many other challenges associated with the digital transformation of our economies, related to competition policy, taxation, cybersecurity, privacy, to name but a few, all areas in which we can share experiences based on policy best practices around the world. The mission has to be to ensure that the benefits and upsides of the digital transformation can reach everyone rather than exacerbating disparities and leaving people behind. Third, we must better understand and better exploit the synergies between the digital and green transitions while also managing some of the key trade-offs. Both the digital transformation and the net zero transition will reshape economic activity and societies. In both cases, we face the same public policy imperative. We need to design policies that are fair, that are fiscally sustainable, and that are understood, accepted, and supported by our citizens over the long run. India is in a unique position to pioneer a new model for low-carbon, inclusive, and digitalized growth, harnessing the opportunities presented by both transitions. India's position as a powerhouse of artificial intelligence, combined with its expertise in developing open-source platforms, provide an opportunity for you to become a front-runner on the use of artificial intelligence tools for the green transition, such as the use of AI to optimize energy use, agricultural productivity, or transport systems. India also has the capacity to lead the way in harnessing the digital and green transitions through investing in modern digital power systems and grid flexibility, expanding mobile phone-based microfinance applications to accelerate rural electrification, and using digital technologies to monitor the most effective policies for improving air quality. In every one of these areas, as well as in relation to India's advancements in solar power and battery technologies, remarkable opportunities exist for India to meet its economic growth goals in a sustainable and resilient manner, and importantly, to pave the way for other developing and emerging economies to do the same. Lastly, we need to commit ourselves more than ever to the pursuit of effective global cooperation to solve the evolving challenges of our time. Global cooperation based on balanced, mutually beneficial multilateralism. Climate change is, of course, one such global challenge, which can only be addressed effectively through more effective, closer global cooperation. More and more countries around the world have committed to achieve net zero emissions. Making that commitment is important, but achieving the outcome through real action is ultimately what matters. And countries around the world have different starting positions, face different circumstances, and have different opportunities to make their best contribution. But also what is done in one country can have implications on the effectiveness of climate mitigation policies in other parts of the world, for better or for worse. It can have implications for trade competitiveness, and in a worst-case scenario, can lead to the shifting of economic activity, jobs, and emissions from one to other parts of the world. Which is why we need a better exchange of data and information across the world. We need better mutual understanding of the comparative effectiveness of different carbon mitigation approaches. And we need a globally more coherent, more transparent, better coordinated approach. Our collective challenge is to ensure that the level of ambition and effort on climate in individual jurisdictions can be lifted to the level required to reach net zero emissions, while maintaining to the greatest extent possible a global level playing field by avoiding counterproductive trade distortions and carbon leakage. That's why the OECD's proposal for an inclusive forum on carbon mitigation approaches envisages the equal footing participation of interested countries from around the world, that is OECD countries and major emerging economies, to address this challenge. The aim is that the data and evidence base it will develop will help inform better decisions around the world. The inclusive forum on carbon mitigation approaches will also provide a place for dialogue, ensuring that the different approaches to climate mitigation and their comparative effectiveness are properly captured, and that any potential negative spillover effects of different policy approaches in different jurisdictions can be properly addressed. As a key partner of the OECD and as the upcoming G20 presidency in 2023, we very much hope that India will be actively engaged in helping to shape this initiative moving forward. In closing, at COP26, countries committed to increase ambition and effort in order to secure the goals of the Paris Agreement and the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. For that, a continued system-wide transformation is required. The world's digital transformation provides substantial opportunity to support these objectives, and I very much look forward to our discussions over the coming days about ways to secure an even stronger, greener, fairer, more sustainable and resilient economy for India and for the world. Thank you very much for listening to me.